I think emotional issues are usually what is the cornerstone of a lack of integrity in lots of ways.
Hello and welcome to Uncovered, the podcast with your host, Jason Irving. Join me in a journey to understand what's truly happening in your world and the world around you. This is not about how you're living life on the surface. It's about what's truly driving you from under the covers. I'm going to take you on a journey to deeply uncover the reason why you are here, the ultimate purpose in your problems, and the way that they have shaped your life up until now. See, I believe you have a purpose, and your problems are the highway towards ultimate realization of that journey towards freedom and the reconnection of your true self. I've been told I have a different spin on most things, and I'll be giving you my understanding of life, love, and what we're all here for, purpose. To get the best out of this podcast, drop what you already know so you can discover what's beyond you. So join me, let's play this game of life and bring on liberation, transformation and change. Let's do this.
Hi Jason, how are you today?
Yeah, I'm very well. How are you?
I'm good too, thank you. So today we're going to talk about integrity.
Yeah, integrity is the cornerstone of responsibility. So they go hand in hand, and we have to learn how to do it really, really well. And I think in leadership, integrity is really, really hard to own and sustain over a really long period of time. And the reason why is people conceal their stuff a lot of the time. So how do you be a good leader, and you want to share information and share your best self when other parts of you are hiding?
So that's kind of like not wanting to be vulnerable.
Yeah, that's right. And so integrity does come at a cost for people, is that it takes the Superman suit off. It means that you're willing to share your vulnerabilities, the things that you struggle with, and the things that you need to do to get yourself to become more integral as a leader. So as an example, I just saw someone on Facebook who has removed himself from the life coaching space. And he freely admitted that he had an addiction to porn, but he didn't change it. So he's moved out of the coaching space because it didn't work for him. The thing is, he didn't have the integrity enough to actually just stop. And I know when I've made many decisions based on integrity over the years to sacrifice things that are not healthy for me. And it takes a lot of courage to do that. I remember in my first experience of trying to become more integral as a healer back in 2004, I just sort of did a meditation. I asked, okay, what have I got to do to become more integral as a healer? And I had to get rid of things. And that was marijuana. I was smoking that every now and then, not all the time. It was just something I did maybe once every 3 months or 6 months. I had to get rid of that, got rid of coffee, got rid of alcohol all in one day. And it was because if I wanted to be better for my clients, I had to let go of some things that were not serving me.
And was that easy for you back then?
Yeah, it was really, really easy, because I think when you want to do the right thing, it's a no-brainer. A lot of people really struggle with thinking that they're going to miss out on something. Integrity, when you look at its best, it means that you're actually gaining something out of your choices. And I think the reason why people don't want to let go of things is because of maybe their friendships and all of those sorts of things. I lost lots of friends, dropping the alcohol, dropping lots of things away, simply because people couldn't, you couldn't socialise with someone because they weren't drinking. So it was a very, very different, especially the Aussie bloke sort of thing. So everyone was like, come on, just have one. And I was just like, nope, it's over. And people sort of got used to that from me. I remember one of the most hilarious things that I experienced when I was doing a course for the Academy called Life Beyond Limits. We went to a dinner on the Saturday night.
I remember that one.
And no one had sweets. And I know why. Because
you
I
were
was there. and everyone would have picked some sweets, but I was there and everyone's like, no, I better not have sweets because Jason's here.
Yeah.
And I have sweets, I just didn't have them that night. So I was really looking after my body at the time when I started the academy, and because it's the Wellness Breakthrough Academy, so it's breaking through into wellness in many, many areas. And to be integral in your choice as a leader, then people have the chance to follow you. If you're not integral and you're hiding things behind closed doors, then how are you gonna trust yourself, and how are people gonna really trust you? Because you always get an inkling that there's something up.
Absolutely. And why do you think it's so hard for some people to be integral and make those integral choices?
I think in this world it's unregulated emotions. I think emotional issues are usually what is the cornerstone of a lack of integrity in lots of ways. I know where, for me, where I struggle with my own integrity is my doing my numbers for my business, like looking at how much it's making and all of those sorts of things, and it's where I sort of hide under the rug a little bit, and it's because that's not my wheelhouse. So quite often where you struggle, you'll sort of push away certain things to try to get away from how you're feeling about where you don't feel like you're sitting in integrity in your own way. I think for me that's where I have to really sort of work on that, because numbers are not my thing. People are my thing. And as a business owner, you need to be knowing what your numbers are. I just got an email from the people who help me out, and they said, "Oh, your numbers are down financially this month, and what's happening?" Right? And I've just got to look and say, okay, how do I look at that? And I just go, oh my God, numbers, and I just lose it a little bit. And it's challenging because we all have these areas that we all struggle with, and we don't know how to hold the integrity in the best possible way because we have weaknesses.
Yeah, that's true. And you just said that you have people that help you. So would you say that one of the things that when you have those areas where you struggle is it's really important to get the support from people who like specialize in those kinds of areas?
Yeah, 100%. And if we can have and find people who will help us become more able in particular areas, then we're going to be able to shift our gears and be able to function and focus differently. And if we can't, we're naturally going to struggle, because it's hard when you're trying to do something that you're naturally not good at. So let's say you're not really good at emotions, then going and finding a mental mindset person is not going to help you. You need to find someone who's emotionally intelligent to help you. Right, and then if you have struggles with a bit of a spaghetti brain, you need someone who's a little bit more direct and focused to help you. Right? So we've all got to get the help that we need, and that's integrity, right? That you're willing to say that you're missing some things, that you've got to that you needs other people to lift the game. There's a really cool thing that I think one of the big wigs, I think it was either Steve Jobs or I think it was Steve Jobs, mentioned this, that you hire people to get your business working. You don't do it all yourself. And the areas that you might be weak in, you find someone who's stronger in an area, so then they can take up the slack, and then you've got the strength that you had. Like, I'm a visionary, I'm really good at people and helping people with their problems and where they're at, to help them, and I help them with income, right, and how they can lift their value and those sorts of things. But if someone asked me to become an accountant, I'd have to do it. And I used to be an IT programmer. It's such a interesting job that I chose, and I was good at the IT program because I was good at solving problems. But it wasn't something that made me happy. And I think if we're going to be integral to our choices, listeners, are you happy doing what you're doing right now? Because that's integrity. You know, I remember when we were talking about happiness needed to be a doing thing, and you weren't happy with some of the things that you were doing in the academy. And then we just figured out that happiness is actually not the doing thing, it's actually a state of being, isn't it?
And it's still hard, you know, a lot of the times for me, like, you know, going back into that kind of overachieving mindset and just basing my whole value and confidence on the work that I do or the achievements that I make, or oh, well, today I wasn't as productive as I would have liked to be, so I must be a horrible person or something like that, you know. And I guess, yeah, it's kind of then sometimes I just flip back into that different state, and it goes a bit back and forth, so it's quite interesting to observe sometimes, because I know there's a different way, so it's, sometimes it's just hard to get yourself out of the hole. Yeah, that's
right. And I think if we're thinking about integrity, guys, it's not something that you can say, okay, I did it all day every day. You're not going to be at your best. You're going to have things that you're going to be falling down on, and things that you're not going to be able to achieve yourself very, very well. And especially as a business owner, when I think about all the things, if I think about all the things I haven't done right now that I've got to get done, it builds a whole lot of pressure in my head. And there's always something that needs to be done. There's always a problem to solve. And I think one of the things that where you can be out of integrity is actually putting that pressure on, and having that pressure on yourself to not feel like you can have a break. Like I had a break last week, and I was thinking about what I tried to make sure I didn't do any work. Had people messaging me, hey, this and that and this and that, and I messaged people back that I didn't do any work, and that was really, really hard to be in integrity in my holiday, right, and enjoy time with the kids, which I did, and my wife and my mum was there as well. And so it comes down to, you know, particular areas that you could be really integral in the workplace and really out of integrity as a dad. Right? So you say, yeah, I'm really integral. Right?
And that's all you show the world, right?
Yeah, but you're only showing an aspect of where your genius is, and then you might be falling down in other areas. So it's knowing how to hold that integrity in not just one area. You've got to be able to do it in other areas. As, you know, for me, you know, in the academy we talk about 6 main areas of life, and one of them's money, purpose, health, relationships, family,
and friendships.
And so for me, where I, you know, struggle is that the numbers, the money. The other ones are going really well, and it's not that I'm not money's working. It's just how I hold integrity to it. And so, if you think about those 6 areas, listeners, you've got to think, well, where are you struggling in those areas? I feel like I do a pretty good job integrity-wise with the 6 areas. If people, a lot of people would look at me and say, Jason, you're too hard on yourself. People have said I've got the most integrity that they know of anybody. I think when you're really focusing on improving who you are, you'll see the flaws in yourself, and you'll want to make them better.
Absolutely. And you don't go out there like banging your chest and say like, I'm the most, you know, integral person you'll ever find, because that's not really integral either, right? Like the thing about you is that you're really authentic, and you don't not, you know, you are doing what most people don't do, especially online, and like exposing and saying like, hey, I'm not perfect, like I don't have it all together, whereas so many people just, you know, show all the good things, and then people think, oh my god, they have this amazing life, but behind the covers there's actually so much that's going wrong.
Yeah, and this is where you've got to understand is that, especially in social media these days, is that people are. I've noticed quite a few bigger entrepreneurs actually posting that they've been struggling, or they're having problems. And I was talking to one of my mentors, Jackson, about this, that it's really, really difficult for people to put themselves in a position where they put themselves in a personality where everyone expects them to be a certain way, and they can't let down, in quotes, the team or the people. And I just want to give you, any of you guys who might be doing that, a bit of advice. You're more real when you show yourself that you've got holes in your repertoire. You don't have to be perfect all the time. I think we've got to learn to be our imperfect perfection, which is allowing ourselves to be where we are in any given moment. And I know for me personally, I can look at my year, let's say as an example, this year has been very, very difficult for me personally, and for me personally psychologically. And then on the other side of the coin, it's been amazing. It really depends on how we look and where our integrity lies as well, because people will look and say, Jason, you've done X, Y and Z and all of these things, where my lack of integrity to myself could be negative. So it's just knowing what to do around our integrity. And I've said this a few times on our podcast, is that if you're happy doing things when nobody's looking, then you're doing a really good job with integrity. If you're not comfortable doing certain things when people are looking, then there's a problem.
So if you don't need to do it in secret. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, as an example, like for health, over the years I've been constantly stealing hot chips off my kids' plates, right? And I know they're not that good for me. And I made a decision for my health and well-being, and I did a video of this. This is my last hot chip, and it's over. My relationship with hot chips is gone, Delia. And now I look and I go, God, I'm missing out. I just think about missing out on this thing, whereas at the end of the day, it's going to be giving me a benefit long-term for health. So it's just another thing that we've got to look at. And I'm really strong with my health, and I know that if I had the whole of the academy there watching me taking chips off the plate, I wouldn't do it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah.
So it was another thing that I've had to sacrifice for myself, thinking, well, if the academy was there watching me, I wouldn't take them. So why should I take them now?
So it's kind of almost like they're holding you accountable, or we're holding you accountable, even though we're not there.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I think that's why integrity is actually quite hard to take ownership of and create sustainability with. And as a leader, when we think about leaders like Nelson Mandela, we think about the integrity that they hold, that they uphold. And we don't know what he's doing behind the scenes. We just have this idea of what we think is the right thing. So listeners, if you've got a bunch of things that you're feeling like you're not doing the right thing with, start changing them or get the help, so then you can actually start moving them in a different direction.
And it's so would you say that also responsibility has a lot to do with integrity? Yeah,
and this is not responsibility burden. This is a responsibility to respond properly in your choices in life. Because a lot of people don't understand responsibility. They take it as being responsible for others' problems. And it really comes down to being responsible in general for your choices that you make. And if you're responsible, one of the things that integrity holds on to is not blaming and projecting and calling other people out for doing the wrong thing by you, because really that's baby talk, right? So I know I've had some situations that I've taken full responsibility for, and people have gone, but that was someone else's fault, Jason. And I'm like, well, no. I've been a participant. I know Anya and I have had some arguments in our relationship, and she said, well, you didn't do anything wrong there. I said, yeah, well, I participated in this fight, so I'm responsible for it too. But people don't think that way.
So you have a bit of a different understanding around responsibility by the sounds of it as well. And like when I think of back to the health example with the chips that you just talked about, it sounds like you're actually, taking responsibility for your health, and making the integral choice for your body as well. Whereas, and you're like, well, I could be feeling like I'm missing out right now, but I'm also gaining a healthier body.
That's right. And just before I went on holidays, I went and got an acupuncture treatment, and it was the best thing to actually go and get some help and support. And so I got Jasonized. The guy was really, really good, and he was very philosophical, and he explained exactly what was going on for me, which is courage, just not having enough courage. And he could see it in when he did my pulse check. So he explained, the courage and the struggle and those sorts of things. And he when we chatted, he said, "Oh, usually I talk about this in the third or fourth session, but I can talk to you about it now," because he could see how responsible I am for myself and what I do. And sometimes that health you do need a bit of a pulse check with somebody else, and to get the help. And I was like, I could have chosen a whole bunch of academy members to give me a hand. And I thought, well, why don't I choose something that's got nothing to do with anything academy, so I can just be there as a person to go and get help without. Sometimes it's hard when you're the leader of an academy and you've got amazing health practitioners here, but they look at me and go, "Well, but you're Jason." So it was just nice to go and get that support and help, and be responsible for what I needed to do there. So as a person, when I think about the responsibility for what I heard from the acupuncturist, was to make sure I did a little bit more movement and that sort of thing, and really focused on having the courage. And people probably would think, "Oh, Jason, you're really courageous. You do all these, you do this podcast, you have your own business, you do all of these things that a lot of people don't do." And 100% I can attest and agree that I have a lot more courage than a lot of people to step out into a minefield of what business is, which is hard work. You're not in a job where you're getting holidays and paid sick leave and all of that sort of stuff. So I've got to constantly be on the ball. I do have that courage in lots of ways to expand the business, to make it work, to make it more global, to do all these things. It's been extremely challenging because I don't have that chest beater type mentality, and I don't want to become a person who is beating their chest out because that's what everybody else does and says I'm amazing. It's not my integrity to do that. I can't. I'm a big softie, and I want to stay that way and learn to have courage in a really, really different format. And I don't even know what that looks like, really, to be honest. I just know I want to be me. And I think that's what integrity is about, is learning to be responsible, to learn to be yourself in an environment which quite often we put a show on every time that we meet people, because people expect something of us. And then something goes awry in ourselves. We just feel like, oh, how can I be me here in this setting, and how can I be who I am, when we don't even know that we're being something else for somebody else.
Yeah, that must be difficult. Absolutely, yeah. Yeah,
and I think it's challenging because we've got to learn to be to figure out what integrity looks like for us as individuals.
Yeah, and how would you say, are there some certain steps that people can take to figure out what integrity looks like for them?
Well, I think one thing that you could do, listeners, is to ask yourself, what is it that you really want? Right? We talk about this in the academy in second year, is the integrity values, right? And there's a little process that we do around this, which is we have these integrity values, and they're words, right? So let's say respect is one of them, and I realised, like, for me personally, respect is one of my core integrity values, and I realised I wasn't being respected by other people, wasn't respecting my time. There were so many things that were out of balance and out of integrity just with that one word. Mm-hmm. And then when we look at the integrity part, that particular word, then we have to go, okay, well, how are we going to empower that word? How are we going to make that word become true? Mm-hmm. Right? And I realised through doing the academy that I've got a long way to go to learn to really respect myself and my time and value it, because people quite often go, oh, Jason, X, Y, and Z, I know you're on holidays, but... Mm-hmm. And then I break my own boundaries.
By replying. Mm-hmm.
By replying. So I'm out of integrity to my time off. And it's a big challenge for me to be in integrity with that, and to respect myself enough to do the right thing there. So that's one of those things when we think of these words, and people often have a bit of a meltdown when we're going through year 2, is that people aren't actually living by their core integrity words and values. Mm-hmm. And then who do we need to become while we're taking that action to live that integrity? Mm-hmm. Because a lot of people don't, and this is where our academy work shows a really simple framework to show pretty much how people aren't living them. Mm-hmm. And then what do we need to do to empower ourselves to make sure we live those core values? And they take years. They're not something that just happens overnight. It's something that you have to constantly sustain and work on. So people, listeners who love to tick a box, integrity is not a tick a box. It's a journey, not a destination. So don't think that because you stop eating a chip, your integrity is higher. You've just stopped eating a chip. Yeah. And that's all you've done. So I think it's really important to understand the person that you need to become to live by your integrity values.
So that would be a good kind of step to take as well, to become more integral, to kind of like, you know, think about the person that you need to become, and then take actions based on that kind of person.
Yeah, yeah.
I read that in a book. I'm pretty sure it was in Atomic Habits, and he was talking about how every action that you do is a vote for the person that you want to be. So there was a lady who was overweight, and she always she started asking herself, what would a healthy person do with every action she was taking? So she would go order lunch, and she would be like, what would a healthy person order? You know, and she'd choose like a salad instead of the burger. Or she'd have to go to a meeting in another office, and she'd be like, what would a healthy person do? Would they walk the 2 blocks, or would they catch a cab? And so she would walk, and she lost a lot of weight by just doing that.
Yeah, and that's what it is that and that's, we have frameworks around this to go, well, what does the person think? How do they feel? Mm-hmm. What environment do they do it in? And how do they act?
Yeah, and that brings it already into you, basically. You know, this was just taking the actions, but then you know, you can also with the framework that we use, you bring also the feeling and the
area, the wisdom that comes from it, and the balance that gets created. Mm-hmm. And so when you've got these aspects of who you need to be to become an integral based person in whatever area that you choose, then it becomes something that's actually realizable and attainable, because people look at words and go, oh yeah, I have integrity and around this, and we don't. Mm-hmm. We've got to really work on it. And to create sustainability, sometimes it can, I always talk about this in our academy, is that when you choose to do something, prove it over a year. Mm-hmm. Because you can't prove it over 6 weeks.
Yeah. You
got to prove it over a year to make it sustainable, and then prove it over 5. Mm-hmm. Right? When I think about my business, I've been in business since 2001. So I've been working for myself as a contractor in the IT industry since 1997, though. I've been working for myself really for pretty much most of my working life. And so if I was going to get another contract in the IT industry, I had to show up and be better than the person next to me. I had to, because I wasn't going to get re-signed. So my integrity was show up, don't just show up better than everybody else.
And I guess that's why you made it happen, and that's why it worked for you.
Yeah, I had to. And so in business and in life, no matter what you do, if you decide to show up better than the next person or show up better for yourself every day, then you're going to be doing a better job every single day. And there'll be times where you will fall down. When you look back in your progress, you'll be able to look and say you'll be really proud of the person that you're becoming. And I think about myself as a dad. To be integral there is to be present with them, and sometimes I'm not. And I can get called out by Anya, and I have a lot of people say you're the best dad I've ever seen. And I look and I think, well, not in my shoes.
Because you still want to become so much better.
Yeah.
So you always keep that kind of humility as well.
Yeah, it's one of the other leadership qualities is having the humility to be able to take feedback on and go, yeah, I hear what you're saying. I'm going to make it better though, because I can see flaws in who I am, and when I'm focusing on being the best that I can be. So, as an example, last night my son was having a bit of a panic, and I talked to him about a moment that he had when he had juvenile arthritis, and he had a big panic attack last night with me. And I took him through, and I just said, why don't you hand all of that panic and pain to me today? And he did. And he said, Dad, it feels different. Right? And it was a moment that we had last night where I did a good job as a dad. And he really got supported, loved and cared for some things that he was doing that was out of integrity. He wasn't listening, he was mouthy and all that sort of stuff, and we put him to bed early. He missed out on watching his favourite show, The Voice, and and then I sat with him and lied down in bed with him and said, I know what the problem is here. And we spoke about why he's mouthy and the need for control and his anxieties and all of those sorts of things. We talked about it, and he was really responsible. He said, I don't know how to stop. And I said, it's all because you're scared. And then he just melted down and cried. He's 9 years old. And instead of being on the surface and saying you need to stop being mouthy, we talked about why.
That is so powerful. That really touches my heart.
Yeah. And he got a chance, and we got to explain. I got to sort of help him understand why he's doing that. So then, and I said, we'll work together to try and change it together. So instead of feeling like he was in trouble, he missed out on watching something, which is what a parent does, I had to be integral to why the pain was there and why he's doing what he was doing, so we could work a pathway forward rather than just stop doing this. It's rude. It's just not integrity to me. I want to know why, how, and what a person is doing what they're doing, so then we can work towards a process to change it.
It's like putting the band-aid on versus actually finding the root cause and kind of helping there, and then you don't need to put the band-aid on anymore.
No, that's correct. And otherwise he wouldn't understand why he's doing what he's doing. I understood what he was doing. It was the right time to talk to him and to figure out a way forward with him so we can work together, so then he's not so scared anymore.
That's a really beautiful example, I think, for this.
Yeah, and that's integrity. This is looking at it not from a business perspective, it's looking at it from a father perspective, and doing the right thing. And it's hard because you want your kids to not be mouthy back. The natural thing as a parent, you want to say stop doing that and give them the repercussions. We need to know why these things are occurring. And until we start looking a bit deeper and finding out where we've been out as a parent, or what we've not supplied as a parent, then our kids are not going to get a better deal.
Absolutely. If imagine if every parent did what you did last night, or and also at schools and these kinds of things, I think we would have very different kinds of people in this world.
Yeah, and I think that's something that we've got to really work with as to build integrity within the framework of all different places, and it's not easy. That's why surface understanding is not integrity. You got to have a little bit more depth of what's underneath the road, rather than trying to find out how to make the road and all the potholes sealed with the right concrete or whatever to make sure that doesn't happen again. But why is the pothole there in the first place? That's what you got to figure out. How come the pothole existed? If you just try and seal it with something, go, okay, now we've fixed it, we just patched it, we're going to get another hole somewhere else.
Or even in the same spot, like if you were driving around here, like I see the same potholes coming up again and again, like literal ones on the street. And they always they put stuff in it, and then a few weeks later there's a lot of rain and they're back. So
and so the metaphor for this, guys, is that if you don't deal with your own lack of integrity, you can have a bicycle accident, and then you can have a car crash, then you can have a train wreck. How much do you want to get to? Where do you want to get to before you actually start being a little bit more integrity? Like, there's a guy, I did a huge list of all the things that I stopped doing, and his response was, oh, it's okay to have a bit of marijuana with your mate. It's nice and chilled out. It's okay to have a bit of a beer, a bit of one of these. And we're the most obese country in the whole world. And it's okay to do a whole bunch of things, knowing that long term, and I know his health is not great, he's actually justifying, he's waiting for cancer to hit it, slap him in the face, and then he's going to have to change. Why wouldn't you, or not, and die and say, this happened to me? This is a cause of personal responsibility to take those steps, to follow the right action, and do something different for your life.
Wonderful. And what is something that people could maybe start doing today to help them become more integral?
Well, I think something very, very simple. Look at the end of the day. How did you do? Be really honest. And then look at what you're going to do the next day. There's really cool books like Atomic Habits and those sorts of things. They help you with habits, which are great. It's a good start, right? It's all in your language. How do you speak to yourself? It really comes down to what specific things. So you need to pick a specific thing that you want to work on, and do a couple of things. Get some help with it if it's a really hard one that you've not been able to solve, and take steps every day with the help that you've been given. And then you'll start building a more integral based life.
That's really good advice. Awesome. Thank you so much for this chat, Jason.
Yeah, thanks, guys. And if you like this and you would really like to, we'd love it if you could share it, review it, and let people know about it, because this is what makes this podcast become more available to people who really need it. So if you really like this, share it with a friend and let them know what we're doing. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for listening to our podcast. We really appreciate you, and we really appreciate your time, because time is so valuable. What we'd love you guys to do, if you like this podcast, if you could share it with your friends, and also our website address for the podcast is www.wellnessbreakthroughacademypodcast.com. Our website is www.wellnessbreakthroughacademy.com. We have a free Facebook group called Wellness Leadership Evolution, so search for that. I'd love it if you could add me as a friend on Facebook. I don't buy it, so add me as a friend. And if you want some help and you would really like some support from us in the Academy, jump in. We have a process. You can do a break-in call to connect in with us. We do small courses. We have lots of things that we share. So we'd love the opportunity to give you a chance to change your life and turn it into a free one. You are one transformation away from change. Come and catch up.